Recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Hello and welcome to the new episode of Mindfulness in Action. It's a little bit different episode. It's the episode when I will be not alone, but you will be hearing only my voice. I was supposed to be joined by a dear friend who, for health reasons, had to postpone her guest appearance for a couple of weeks from now, and you will be joining and checking the episode Meta Economics or Compassionate Economics with Mary McKee. And for today, I wanted to bring for all of us to reflect on something that is present in today's world with a lot of imbalance. That we see a little bit of black and white, that there's a lot relating to power that is bringing confusion, and we are not quite certain in which direction the whole world is going based on the power that we are seeing being in the political arena, in the economy, maybe in our smaller clusters as well. I call it the time of confusion. There is a Chinese curse, may you live in interesting times. And if we don't see it as a curse, but invitation to really reflect on what could be interesting in terms of what are we creating for the future. I think it might bring a little bit more grounding presence for all of us to ask, what am I called to do given the circumstances? As Peter Bonanno shared in one of the episodes when he was guest. What am I here to do? So mindfulness in action is practice beyond the cushion. I don't necessarily share the practice itself. There are so many resources. But as I mentioned, I'm going to be joined with a book. After 2 years of living out of suitcases, I actually got my things shipped here to Serbia, and I got my books back. And that is very special for me. It felt like I suddenly got integrated, and I finally arrived. I arrived home. And the first book that I took to read again is the book The Art of Power by Thich Nhat Hanh. It was it was a bestseller, New York Times bestseller, published in 2008. That was the first edition. And it was time of financial crisis. And we can say that probably touched a lot of us in a different way. I am not sure if it went as long as this one is going. And what I'm aiming to share with you is the introduction to the book. I'm not going to read the whole book, of course, but first the foreword by a Buddhist scholar, Pritam Singh, a short passage from that, and then afterwards a passage from the introduction, actually, that Thich Nhat Hanh wrote to the book. What inspired me about this is actually remembering that in 2019 I went to the Plum Village for a business retreat. That's how it was called. At that time, I was already really doing a lot of work, teaching mindfulness, bringing mindfulness to organizations. I lived in Beijing and opened the Beijing Mindfulness Center, and I realized how tricky the path was. I felt rather alone with that, and going to Plum Village for some guidance was such a precious opportunity. Something very surprising happened when I went there with my enthusiasm, maybe questions, curiosity, inspiration about all the good work and amazing people I was meeting who were really interested in learning mindfulness. I came to realize that the community of Plum Village, brothers and sisters, and much more than them, actually volunteers, were really having difficulty connecting with us, business people, entrepreneurs. We were coming from different phases of business world. Some were entrepreneurs, some were leaders thinking on how to bring mindfulness into their organizations. And the part that they were struggling with was the fact or their understanding that we were all in it for money. That ultimately the measure of our success, business success, was related to money. And the more people we touched, the more people we taught, that would mean the more money we would get. Now, Plum Village is an organization as well, and they also live by donations, and they survive in that way. People pay for retreats. Their bookstore, if any of you went there, is absolutely amazing, and once a week it opens up and people just buy all the books. So they also find ways how to bring the material aspect to it. But it took me, it's still taking me time to understand exactly where was that resistance to the way maybe I was approaching to mindfulness-based business. And the more I'm going through my practice and the longer this economy and political crisis and humanity crisis is happening, I'm realizing how definition of success and its relation to power is really so it requires a change of the paradigm, and perhaps that retreat at that time, that's what they were inviting us to do. I left the retreat with one invitation, primary invitation from all brothers and sisters, and that was to shift that the currency of the business success becomes happiness and not the financial abundance. Because what is success, or how could it be that the business is thriving if it shows really high and very good financial picture, if it's only AI working in it, if there are no humans, if human relations are not really also thriving, and at the same time, if those who are working in those organizations, who are leading them, are not happy. And can that in any way be connected to mindfulness in that case? I will share a short story from that retreat, and then I will read this passage. So at the end of each day, we would go for a mindful walk. It would be an hour practice of it's just allowing our mind and body to be engaged and to release all the thinking and to connect with nature. And there was also one part of the retreat, and that was the sharing circle. So we would gather all in a circle and talk about what has happened in the day. And this is how we also learned that all brothers and sisters were struggling, and they would say, I'm having a lot of difficulty knowing that ultimately what you all really want is money, and perhaps that the other aspects are a little bit less. But we are doing this because Thich Nhat Hanh told us that this is important work to do. And one of the brothers shared how he was practicing his work. So he was on duty that day, and there was an accident. One of the pipes broke, and there was a leak, and they needed to look for people to come to repair the pipes. And the problem that was happening was that they also needed to pay for that repair. But the key of the safety deposit, safety box, was with a brother who was walking at the very front of the mindful walk whole stream of people. There were around 100 people who joined that retreat. And as he found that out, he now had a really big difficulty within himself on how to come to the beginning of the whole line, ask for the keys and not run. Do it mindfully, walk, while still holding that sense of urgency within him, so that he can really also help to fix what needed to be fixed. His sharing deeply touched me on how devoted he was to the practice, and how the whole aspect of nowhere to go, nothing to do, be mindful, stay with what is going on, observe your emotions. And he was talking about maybe frustration and irritation and all of that, how it was accompanying him while he was walking somewhat faster than he usually would, and with a distracted mind. But eventually he actually really came to the beginning of the line and got the key. In another sharing, one of the brothers also said that when they were walking with Thich Nhat Hanh, also doing mindful walk with him, and it started to rain. And few drops started, and they looked up, and now it was happening in Thailand. The rains in Thailand can be really vicious. And so they all looked around and thought we are doing mindful walking, and of course nothing can distract us. We just continue to do it mindfully, slowly. And what Thich Nhat Hanh actually did, he started to run. So bringing these two situations, one of the tasks of Zen teachers is to actually break paradigms of how things should be done. And that whenever we are trapped in the understanding of the concept, that we actually lose the practice. And so in this case, there's no right and no wrong approach. It's not that the brother who was walking mindfully to get the key was doing it wrong. It's also really situational. But I think what I'm trying to bring is, how can we liberate ourselves from any concepts that are shared anywhere, and really bring practice into personal life and see how it applies. Within all of that, it's important to follow certain direction that is ethical, that is humane, and that requires much conversation. So I will now read the foreword first, one part of that, just so you can become a little bit more familiar with Thich Nhat Hanh and his work and the time when this book was written, and also the time when we are looking into how Thich Nhat Hanh was presenting himself to the global leadership, and what Pritam Singh is bringing here. So this is what he says. In January 2001, I was privileged to accompany Thich Nhat Hanh and his longtime assistant, Sister Chang Kung, to the World Economic Conference held each year in Davos, Switzerland. Thich Nhat Hanh had been invited along with other prominent religious leaders from around the planet to meet and discuss how spiritual values could be used to help resolve global issues. Before an estimated 30 heads of state, 200 of the world's richest men and women, and a few thousand of the most influential movers and shakers alive, Thich Nhat Hanh spoke with love, compassion, and total fearlessness. He was not there to seek support or approval from the great and famous. He was there hoping to awaken in them their best, to help them change the world by touching their own true selves. In a gathering dedicated to wealth, influence, and power in all its fabulous manifestations, he spoke in a soft and quiet voice. He asked nothing of them, only reminding them to please always remember their common humanity. On its website, the World Economic Forum proudly displays the motto, "Committed to improving the state of the world." That day, in Davos, Switzerland, Thich Nhat Hanh asked everyone to adopt the motto, "Committed to improving the state of every heart." And now I will take you into the introduction by Thich Nhat Hanh to this book. What does power mean to us? Why are most people willing to do almost anything to get it? Even if we are not aware of it, most of us seek to be in positions of power because we believe this will enable us to control our life situations. We believe power will get us what we most want, freedom and happiness. Our society is founded on a very limited definition of power, namely wealth, professional success, fame, physical strength, military might, and political control. My dear friends, I suggest that there is another kind of power, a greater power, the power to be happy right in the present moment, free from addiction, fear, despair, discrimination, anger, and ignorance. This power is the birthright of every human being, whether celebrated or unknown, rich or poor, strong or weak. Let's explore this extraordinary kind of power. All of us want to be powerful and successful. But if our drive to get and maintain power drains us and strains our relationships, we never truly enjoy our professional or material success, and it's simply not worth it. Living our life deeply and with happiness, having time to care for our loved ones, this is another kind of success, another kind of power, and it is much more important. There is only one kind of success that really matters: the success of transforming ourselves transforming our afflictions, fear, and anger. This is the kind of success, the kind of power that will benefit us and others without causing any damage. Wanting power, fame, and wealth is not a bad thing, but we should know that we seek these things because we want to be happy. If you are rich and powerful but unhappy, what's the point of being rich and powerful? We can use the simple, concrete, and effective practices offered in this book to cultivate real power, the freedom, security, and happiness we all want right here, right now. This is for us, our families, our communities, our society, and our planet. The ambition to grow our understanding and compassion and to help the world is a wonderful energy that gives our lives genuine purpose. Many great teachers before us, Jesus, Buddha, Mohammed, and Moses, also had this ambition. Today we experience the same profound desire as they did, to embody peace, relieve suffering, and help people. We have seen that one person can bring liberation and healing to thousands, even millions of people. Each one of us, whether a factory worker, a politician, a waitress, a business person, an entertainer, or a father coaching a soccer game, shares this deep desire. But it is important to remember that to realize this wonderful ambition, we must first take care of ourselves. To bring happiness to others, we must be happiness. And this is why we always train ourselves to first take care of our own bodies and minds. Only when we are solid can we be our best and take good care of our loved ones. When we live without awareness, without the ability to truly see the world around us, our life is often like a runaway train. This is especially true in our professional life. If we are consumed by our jobs, we can't stop running. When we suffer in our personal lives, our professional lives also suffer. When we suffer in our professional lives, our personal lives also suffer. Heavy workloads, unrealistic deadlines, difficult working conditions, constant stress, the fear of being tired, these all cause suffering at work, which then spills into the rest of our lives. And no one, it seems, can help us. But it doesn't have to be that way. By cultivating our spiritual or true power and bringing mindfulness to our daily interactions, we can completely change the quality of our work as well as our work lives. Mindfulness is being fully present in the here and now, being in touch with what is going on inside us and around us. Using the simple practices that follow to train our minds and focus our attention, we become not only more efficient and effective, but also more relaxed and energized. We already have enough time to be attentive to all the people and things that are most important to us, and we can live each moment to the fullest, knowing it is a wonderful moment, the only moment we really have. By focusing on our spiritual power, we can change our bottom line from pure profit to one that includes compassion. We don't need to get rid of profit. Compassion can bring financial and political success. I believe it is simply good business to include in our definition of the bottom line a consideration of all the effects we have on one another and on the planet. Businesses that intelligently combine profit making with integrity and concern for the world have happier employees and more satisfied customers while making more money. Every year, Fortune magazine lists one of 100 best companies to work for. These companies are successful in every way, and every year these companies share a commitment to healthcare, childcare, fair vacation time, respect for the environment, and profit sharing. Those admired companies understand that spending money, time, and energy caring for the physical and mental well-being of their employees and the larger community is vital to the health of their business and more profitable. Most politicians and many businesses, from the pharmaceutical industry to multimedia technology development, started out with some intention of relieving people's suffering. We have to keep that intention, that ambition alive. When financial profit overrides all other motivation, we self-destruct. The wave of corporate fraud that drowned Enron, Tyco, and WorldCom reminds us of this. That is why it is important that we conduct our professional life with compassion, with kindness. Without compassion, you can't be happy, no matter how rich you are. You become isolated and trapped within your own world, unable to relate to people or understand them. Running after profit at the expense of compassion hurts you as much as it hurts other people. When you look deeply, you see the pain and suffering in the world and recognize your deep desire to relieve it. You also recognize that bringing joy to others is the greatest joy you can have, the greatest achievement. In choosing to cultivate true power, you do not have to give up your desire for the good life. Your life can be more satisfying and you will be happy and relaxed, relieving suffering and bringing happiness to everyone. I'm inviting you just to take a few deep breaths together with me. What is alive in me as I read this? Some sense of longing. What Thich Nhat Hanh is sharing in that moment in Davos in 2001, it did feel like a reality that was possible. There were many who were actually understanding that invitation and that search for well-being and happiness. The research from Sonia Lyubomirsky. She wrote The Art of Happiness book, amazing book as well. The research on self-compassion, also vulnerability, Brené Brown. We came very close to that part of holding the container of safety where each and every one of us were cultivating awareness and also learning how to be better for the world and in the world. And then a crisis happened. Not one, but many, globally, collectively. We came to a standstill with COVID, the whole world at once. For a while, and on some that left devastating consequences. We went into virtual connection, tech world, in response to relieving the suffering of disconnection, came in to help us, to support us, to stay connected, to feel, to support each other. And that indeed happened. I am so grateful for this platform, for all other platforms, mobile technology. It's absolutely amazing that we can connect in real time, regardless where we are. I also remember after some months of being in a lockdown, my first journey outside of the city. I was taking an underground and I was scared. I was feeling uncomfortable of the presence of other humans. I didn't know if we should wear masks, if that was okay, and people were whispering. It was hard to connect our eyes. And somewhere in that space, I feel that no matter how much technology offers us space to connect, if we are not feeling safe in presence of each other, then we are not really going in the right direction. Ultimately, that is going to create some sense of unease. And feeling good about connecting with each other is actually what I understand Thich Nhat Hanh is actually inviting us to do, to bring the compassionate presence. Compassion doesn't mean feeling sorry for others. It doesn't mean that we only look at others who are experiencing difficulties and suffering in their life. Compassionate presence actually means that we, in a way, rejoice for the experience of life that each and every human has, regardless of where they are on their life journey. So if we can do that collectively and hold the space of that loving kindness, compassionate presence, as we see people who are succeeding, perhaps, so that we don't feel envy, jealousy, and those who are nowhere near success, but actually facing one difficulty in life after the other, that we can hold compassionate space with them as well, and absolutely also learn how to take care of our minds and bodies, our heart in that process. Well, that's a life journey, and that's the mission. Not an easy mission. You might understand my words, and I am aware that I'm saying them, but honestly, I am really learning what that means in my own life. So I invite you to be open to just become curious on how you could bring that compassionate presence for another being in your life. Maybe for a day or for an hour. Or if that is too challenging, next time when you're watching a movie, could you keep that compassionate presence for any of the characters, and maybe play with being in compassionate presence with a character whom you don't really like, and the other one whom you really like, and ask yourself, what is really going on in their life? What are they really about? And who am I as I'm observing that? Now, if this practice becomes a part of a daily life and we become more and more skilled in it, especially in relations with people where we feel safe, then it's going to be easier to bring that practice into concepts that are so confusing and have been confusing since humanity began to write things down, perhaps, and record the words. We reflect on the concepts of power, success, and how we bring aspects of humanity into this confusing time. And perhaps all that this time is offering is a breakthrough in our practice so that we remain connected with our faith, that we are walking on the right path, and that even though it's really hard, it's still possible to smile, experience happiness, and also experience common humanity. And I will share another story for the end. The story that also came to me during COVID. Now, let me mention just that I was so grateful that I went to that business retreat in the end, because I started practicing detachment from relating my business to financial success or happiness, to be happy when I have money, and when I don't have money, then I would be just in turmoil. It's not an easy practice, but I did open up to that. And when COVID came and my business stopped, it was just so handy that I already practiced for some months, half a year. And I thought, like, wow, this is a challenge. Now, that was in 2020, that COVID. I lived in China, so it lasted 3 years. I'm still recovering. I didn't manage to recover my business since COVID. It's been a steady downfall. And maintaining my own humanity and working through my own inertia to be angry, to just drop everything and say, this is just ridiculous, to observe what is going on in my country and other countries where there is war. It's hard to maintain faith, but I keep coming back to that invitation to try and see who I am becoming. And now the full understanding of one Buddhist story came at that time. And the story is about the monk who was running from a tiger. He was walking in the forest, and suddenly in Thailand, he realized there was a tiger that started chasing him, and he ran away. And he was running and running, and managed to come to the end of the road, and there was abyss, like a little drop, quite a drop, and he realized there was nothing that he could do, but at least he was making a choice. He did not want to be eaten by a tiger, so he tried. He jumped, and as he jumped, he actually managed to grab one of the branches that were growing from the side of that face of the hill. And relieved, he just sighed, and he thought, wow, how magical, I'm saved. And then he looked down and realized there were 2 tigers at the bottom looking at him. And then he looked at the branch and realized there was a mouse that was eating on that branch. It was just a matter of time when that branch was going to break and he was going to fall anyway. And in the middle of all of that, he also noticed that there was a bee landing on a flower and enjoying the nectar. He saw a little strawberry also on the side and saw its beautiful color, and he smiled and picked up the strawberry and took a bite. I read this story many, many times, and although I thought that it was inspiring, I thought it was just like some Buddhist stuff. Like, how could that be possible? Well, be facing tigers on the top and tigers at the bottom, and mouse eating the branch. He can be in a space, or anyone can be in a space of enjoying the sight of a bee feeding on the nectar of a flower. And then during COVID, I realized it was not the first time that monk enjoyed the view of the bee and the flower and the strawberry. There were many, many moments when he was giving himself a space to notice these little precious moments of life that were in his surrounding. And only because of that capacity, because of those string of events where he kept coming back when times were good, when he was not in any danger, it's because of that practice that he was reminded at his last moments of life on how precious life was. And what is most important for a life well lived, but for us to die with a smile on our faces? How precious is that? That last moment is for us remembering good things we had. But for that moment, we need to pay attention. And for sure, every single day, there is a little good that happens. We just need to notice. So thank you for paying attention, bringing awareness into your life, opening up to compassion, and knowing that we are all in this together, regardless of where we are. Be well, be safe, and let that smile come through the rainy day. My name is Dalida Turkovic. This is Mindfulness in Action, and I will see you next time.